heritage को represent करना, if I can represent my state or any other particular state in Bharat. And I think भारत इतना सुंदर देश है, इतने सुंदर textiles है, prints हैं, and कहीं ना कहीं आजकल वो लुप्त हो रहा है, ख़त्म सा हो रहा है, right? तो बहुत सारे कॉमन प्रिंट्स हैं जो हमें पता है ना. अ लॉट ऑफ अस नो बनारसी एंड देन पैठणी एंड मे बी पटोरा, बट देर आर फ्यू मोर टेक्सटाइल्स जो लोगों को नहीं पता है. देयर इज इकट, अजरक, लाइक कोसा, मेखला. सो ये जो प्रिंट्स हैं वो ना भारत में कहीं खो रहे हैं. एंड मेरा जो साड़ी से प्यार है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है, और मुझे लगा कि अगर मैं इतनी इंटरेस्टेड हूँ you know, to know about the textile and the culture. So ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग होंगे. So I thought let's start a series and even I'll get to learn कि भारत में कितनी अलग अलग साड़ीज़ हैं, एक साड़ी को बनने में कितना समय लगता है, कितनी वैल्यूबल है. क्योंकि अगर हम इतिहास में भी जाके देखें, बिकॉज मैं कंटेंट बनाती हूँ तो मेरा कंटेंट स्क्रिप्चर्स के अराउंड भी होता है, राइट. तो महाभारत में भी अगर हम जाके देखें तो माँ द्रौपदी और महाभारत के समय में माँ रुक्मणी ये भी शुरू ही हुई थी. तो ये सभ्यता कितनी पुरानी है ना. तो वहाँ से ये शुरू हुई एंड देन इट केम टू रामायण ऑल्सो, जहाँ माता सीता, माता कौशल्या भी हैंडलूम पर बने हुए हाथशाल, हाथ शिल्प पर बनी हुई सिल्क की, रेशम की साड़ियाँ पहना करती थी. सो आई वॉन्ट टू रिवाइव कल्चर बैक इन इंडिया एंड टू रिप्रेजेंट साड़ी प्राउडली. सो दिस इज द न्यू कूल.
The new cool. See, you're getting applause straight away on that. So, you know, when I met Janvi and I said, when you meet a 20-year-old influencer, what is the image that comes to mind? Clearly not this, but it's people like Janvi who are changing trends, who are making India cool, who are making content which is about India, rooted in India, so much cooler. I think that's why we're having this conversation right here on the Rising Bharat Summit as well. So we talked about sari influence. There is also travel influencing. Our next guest on the panel, उनके नाम के आगे आपने देखा होगा ब्रूस्ड पासपोर्ट्स लिखा है. वो उसी नाम से जाने जाते हैं. और हम जब इनसे बात कर रहे थे तो ये वैसे तरह के लोग हैं जिनको आप सोशल अपने स्क्रॉल पर देखते हैं सोशल मीडिया पर और कहते हैं ये हमेशा ट्रैवल करते रहते हैं, काम कब करते हैं. सो वी रियली वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम द टू ऑफ यू, काम कब करते हैं, हर समय ट्रैवल करते हैं, ये लाइफस्टाइल है, और कैसे हर समय वेकेशन पर होते हैं.
हमको ट्रैवलिंग इतनी अच्छी लगती है कि हमने उसे अपना काम ही बना लिया है. तो अब हम ट्राई करते हैं कि काम भी कर ले और पैशन भी फॉलो कर ले. बट आई ट्रूली थिंक दैट the reason why we started doing this was because both of us have known each other for a very long time, and we used to work in very different jobs, but increasingly we felt we want to spend more time together, and we had a shared passion of travel. So we thought, can't we do something that can combine everything? We can travel, spend more time with each other, and work as well, because it needs to be sustainable.
And with it, so, just for our audience, tell us how many countries have the two of you visited together so far?
As they say, just for age, like, you know, it's just a number. But since we are talking about it, it's 110 now. Yeah, soon I think it'll be 111.
And did you tell me that you are traveling 300 out of 365 days?
Yeah. On an average, yeah. If we take an average for the last 10 years, then yeah, that will be the average.
We actually traveled full-time for about 5 odd years. Now we live in Delhi, but yeah, we travel 300 days.
Live in Delhi, matlab if 300 days you're out, how are you living in Delhi? What does that mean?
As my mom says, was suitcase rakhne aur kapde dhone aate ho, and then you're off again.
I have always wanted to understand this from travel influencers. हम सब जाते हैं छुट्टियों पर to have a good time, to detox, to leave aside our phone and just chill, right? आप जाते हैं, is it hard? Is it work now that you have to make content, make reels, ensure that, you know, people are following, it's reaching the right audience, the branding is on point, the partners have been done. Is it work or has the fun?
For both of us, because we travel together, it's a lot of fun as well. But yes, you're right. It's influencing or content creation is a full-time job. In fact, because both of us had corporate jobs before this, I would say it's much more demanding than our previous jobs, because your mind is at work 24/7. But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So just on that note, also tell us, what were you doing and Vidit, what were you doing before you took up
Well,
traveling full time?
I'm a computer engineer by education, so I was working in that field. Savi is a PhD in English literature.
I actually used to teach at Delhi University, so
So
I
yeah,
used to teach BA and MA students at Delhi University.
From computers to a camera, you know. I think they say like if you're passionate about something, then you can definitely make it your profession. So.
An engineer, a PhD student is now a full-time influencer, and that is the reality. They're happy about it, and they love it, and it's a sustainable job. That's where the influencing game has actually gone. And I think that's what, you know, deserves a lot of compliment, credit as well, because I know it's not easy. Talking about where it has gone and talking about how influencers are emerging from engineering, doctors, PhDs, I have someone else here with me. Hi, Shantanu.
Hi.
Shantanu also is an engineer, but does something which I bet nobody sitting in this room would know about. Can I have a raise of hand of, do you know what is art fluence? Dead.
Because we just came up with the word just like right now.
Shantanu, what is art fluence?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Santanu Hazarika and I am an artist by profession. And there's no such thing as art fluence. I mean, art has always been influential throughout the ages. We have read about the different movements in art during the Renaissance time, during all different periods of time. But what is art in its truest form? It's a summary, it's a sort of a subjective understanding of any civilization. And it is always propagated through different mediums. Before it was through sculptures, before it was through portraits, paintings, and now it's through social media. So what I'm trying to do is merge the idea of art, get it out there for a wider audience to understand and perceive art how we artists see them as, basically. So art fluencing, to be honest, is still a very subjective term. We just coined it. We're going to trademark this. And what I'm trying to do is create a design and introduce a quality or set a bar when it comes to art and design through social media.
Right. Shantanu is being humble right now, and we're not taking brand names, but the biggest brands in India and internationally now go to Shantanu and say, design our campaigns, design what our packaging should look like. So you see what's happening? There was a time when you had to study design, you had to be an art expert. Now, you can go to this engineer coming from the Northeast who loves doing it, is passionate about it, and that's what's going to get business, and that's what's going to get a beautiful community as well. But talking about the fact that you come from the Northeast, Janvi, I know, comes from my state, UP, and, well, Bruised, you guys are just all over the world. You just belong to India. You just belong to Bharat, right? I'm just gonna leave it there. But I think the next spectrum, in the spectrum of influencing, and it's come through a major journey for the past couple of years. What's happened now is initially we had influencers who would tell you what kind of makeup to put, what kind of clothes to wear. There was this entire category who were wannabe celebrities, now full-time actors, etc. But look at this. The next set of influencers from India are coming from small towns, are coming from places and have stories to tell which have been long lost, and are coming from places which take pride in what their true identity really is. Janvi, tell me, how did you tie that up? And how did this girl from UP decide कि आज अब मैं ना साड़ी के बारे में बात करने वाली हूँ?
तो जैसा कि आपने कहा कि अब जो ये नया दौर है इन्फ्लुएंसर्स का, क्रिएटर्स का, जहाँ हम छोटे शहर से आ रहे हैं एंड बहुत अलग अलग जगह से कंटेंट निकल के आ रहा है, तो यही तो है नया भारत, है ना? तो और इससे होता क्या है कि अलग अलग क्रिएटर्स को एक स्टेज मिल रहा है, एक प्लेटफॉर्म मिल रहा है, एंड प्लस द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इज ऑल्सो रिकग्नाइजिंग दिस नाउ. सो इट्स अ हेल्दियर कॉम्पिटिशन जहाँ अच्छा कंटेंट निकल के आएगा, अच्छे कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स निकल के आएंगे जो भारत को लेके जाएंगे. सो इट विल बी अ राइजिंग भारत. Right.
God.
But
Right there.
yeah, coming up to the sarees now, I think मेरा जुड़ाव sarees के साथ बहुत रहा है और मुझे लगता है मैं साड़ी पहन के सबसे सुंदर दिखती हूँ.
क्या बात
And not just that, it helps me to take my culture, my heritage forward. तो अपनी सांस्कृतिक धरोहर जो आज का युवा भूलते जा रहा है, उन्हें बड़ी शर्म आती है. हम अपनी भाषा कैसे बोले, हम अपना पहनावा लोगों को कैसे दिखाएं. आजकल लोग शर्म करते हैं. They expect girls to wear a sari, but not a single man can wear a dhoti and walk. Right? So that's what the expectations the society has set now, and that's not should be the case. I mean, ये नया भारत है, युवा भारत है, तो इसको एक प्राइड लेना चाहिए अपने कल्चरल हेरिटेज को फॉरवर्ड ले जाने के लिए. और मैंने अपनी सीरीज साड़ी का साहित्य इस वजह से भी शुरू किया ताकि अगर एक 20 साल की लड़की अगर साड़ी पहनने को कूल दिखा सकती हूँ, सो यू कैन ऑल्सो डू दैट. आई मीन आई कैन मोटिवेट दैट यंग पीपल आउट देयर टू टेक प्राइड इन देयर कल्चर. एंड ऑनेस्टली आई एम टेलिंग यू, भारत से सुंदर कल्चर पूरे दुनिया में कहीं नहीं है. भले ही आप पूरा भारत घूम ले, यू मस्ट हैव नोटिस दिस एंड यू माइट अग्री.
I was about to say this, that one of the greatest things that social media has done is that till a few years ago, there used to be this stereotype of India. You know, we saw it in so many movies like Slumdog Millionaire and everything. But thanks to social media, people like us can portray different facets of the country, because India is such a culturally rich country. And all of us can show different facets, whether it's luxury travel में कोई India किसी country से कम नहीं है. But कोई उसकी बात नहीं करता. Natural wonders, natural wonders में India is so good. But we need to highlight it more and more. And one of the things that comes to mind is we were in Meghalaya a couple of years ago, और हमने उधर river Doki पर एक video खींचा, and it sort of went viral online. And every single day we get messages from people sitting in UK or Spain who saw that video, came to India, went to Meghalaya, and then explored Meghalaya, although earlier they would just do like Agra and Jaipur perhaps, you know. So the onus is on all of us to foreground the culture, the rich heritage, the places of India in the coming years.
That's very rightly said, but Savi, ये सब तो ठीक है, आप तो साड़ी पहनकर आ गई हैं, पर इस पैनल के बाद हमें जरा विदित से पता करना चाहिए कि धोती पहनना आता है कि नहीं. हाँ, that is, I think it's a very valid point that Janvi has picked up.
I think इस discussion के बाद तो सीखना पड़ेगा. But would love to. So you know.
I can teach you.
Yeah,
I know how to do it.
Let's do that.
I like how Shantanu in his very punk sort of Japanese monk avatar and his hair is saying, I will teach you dhoti. I really want to wait and see that. But this is what I want to come to. Content creation, and in India today, finding your true identity doesn't have to be one person. You can be as desi as Janvi, as cool desi as she said, as cool desi as Janvi. You can be as punk as Shantanu, but you will still find a community that will feel a sense of belonging with you. And thus the onus, which is what I want to bring everybody's attention to. A lot has been said about influencers and the influence they have and what do they do with it. एक बहुत infamous dialogue है, बोला गया था किसी platform पे कि influencers तो बिकाऊ हैं. कोई भी brand जाके उनको कितने भी पैसे दे सकता है and they'll say whatever, right? So has that changed in the industry? Shantanu, why don't you pick that question? Is there a conscious thought now on what idea, what brands, what kind of thinking are you really going to put out through yourself and through your brand?
See, the thing is, what has happened over time is the influencer market is sort of saturated. Now, when you're talking about brands, they understand the importance of marketing and branding in a very subtle way. It has to be universal in nature, right? It can't be like, okay, I'm watching an ad. It shouldn't be evident that I'm watching an ad. It beats the purpose of influencing anything. So what happens in that scope is you have to build your own brand, which is organic, which is natural. And to have that, you need to have a core audience. So there are few things which a community will always relate to. Joy, pain, and salvation. So I come from a place where we have seen all three of those things. And pride. And of course, pride. Like Janvi said, pride in our own culture. So if you sort of can capitalize on 4 different or maybe one of those things, you can start relating to people more, be it through art, be it through social media, be it through travel, be it through any medium, whatever you call it. So the moment you start building that particular sense of collectiveness among a group of people, be it a small group of people who listen to same kind of music, maybe have been through same kind of experiences, so you start building a niche. And that niche will give you that originality. And that's what the brands look for. They want to be more niche in their approach, and they want to also encompass that organic nature of influencing people. So the days of putting an advert out or hiring an influencer just because they have million followers is gone. Now what they look for is the authenticity. Numbers don't matter anymore. It's how organic your reach is.
Is that true? Numbers don't matter?
No, most of them are bots.
I would say authenticity definitely matters more than numbers, because it's like, it's a story on your page, you know, as the panel says, we are storytellers and the story of our lives is on our page. So brands really, really look for that. They don't look for somebody who's doing one mobile phone ad one day and then another the next day, for sure.
But,
I think,
Vidit, tell me this.
Yeah.
When do you, since you are the brand, you are the influencer, when do you stop being the influencer? When do you start being that person? It's, or is it, or that Lakshman Rekha simply does not exist?
I think the onus of drawing that line is actually on the influencer, because we know people who do this like first thing in the morning and even on Saturdays, Sundays. But for us, it was very clear right from the beginning that we weren't leaving one corporate rat race to get into another. So, you know, we made it a point to kind of draw that line that 2 days in a week, we are not, like weekend, not necessarily that Saturday and Sunday, but sometimes because of work, Sunday has to be dedicated to work. So we take Monday off. You know, so I think it's really up to the content creator or the influencer to draw that line. And there's no like clear definition of where it starts and where it stops. But yes, at the end of the day, it does kind of permeate into you know, a lot of the things that you do and a lot of times throughout the week.
But I think, as Shantanu said, if you're being authentic with your audience, it feels so effortless. Sometimes you're working, but it doesn't even feel like work, because you're actually putting a very authentic part of yourselves out into the world. So the boundaries are also very blurry sometimes.
You have to be up for it, because if I am going on holiday, I don't want my phone around me. I don't know how you guys do it. But moving on, we're coming to the closing of this session. I want a quick sort of last comments on where is this going? We also see a lot of, like you said, we have saturated the content across platforms, more and more platforms, more and more content, more and more influencers, so to say. There are also a lot of one-time hits and one-time wonders. So where is this going, and what next for influencing? Like I said, Bollywood now acknowledges, politicians acknowledge, brands, of course, acknowledge. What next now in this influencer journey? Shantu, you, and then I'll go around.
I think the whole market dictates a socio-economical change through the eyes of an influencer, through the eyes of social media, basically. That's the greatest influence we can have, right? So I think it's about reform, it's about socio-economical change that can be brought about through the strong
powerful.
medium.
Change and reform through influencing. That's powerful.
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed. Like, be it any political party, be it any sort of form of rules or any ministry, there's always a social media handle, right? So, for example, I've worked with the Ministry of Culture. So they have an ongoing social media campaign regarding stuff. So people have recognized the importance of it. And I think it's slowly seeping into the whole reform movement. And it is an independent industry which is going to grow as we are growing as artists and influencers, and we have to deal with it.
Janvi?
I think it is just the beginning what you're looking at right now, and because अलग-अलग content creators सामने आ रहे हैं, अलग-अलग content सामने आ रहा है, which is taking the country forward for sure. But I also think over the time it will be like अगर आप अपनी audience के साथ, अपने content के साथ valuable है, so it will be a, you know, a long game for sure.
Value add.
Yeah,
is your
value
take.
addition is the key, and value will create virality in the long run also. So that consistency and authenticity, as we discussing the previous question also, कि मेरे लिए वो लक्ष्मण रेखा नहीं है. I am the same person on social media and offline also. So I'm the same. And फिर अगर आप इतने authentic होते हैं ना, तो it is actually very effortless to put out content in a long run also. So
काम नहीं लगता है, as they used to say, right? Yeah.
काम तो लगता है.
I mean, building on that, you can put up a facade for a day or two, a month max. But when you're putting out content, जैसे जानवी कह रही हैं कि रोज अगर डालना है, तो वो facade रहेगा नहीं ज़्यादा time तक. You know, your authentic self will come out.
Closing comments now, yeah. Vidit, then Sabi.
I just think that the idea of idea of celebrity that all of us grew up with, you know, movie stars, etc., is dissipating now. There are it's a very fluid concept. So all of us decide what niche we want to cater to, what our community is. So overnight virality is also not a bad thing, because that might help somebody like this tea seller that we were talking about before the panel. It might democratize and bring so much empowerment to a community. And I think that's what's important to remember, that all of us are thriving in our little niches and doing the best we can for our little communities
That's
out
nice,
there.
that's
Yeah,
nice.
exactly.
Vidit, yeah. The lady said it all.
I would just say that I love the fact that it has become democratized now. Like, you know, till a few years ago, there was this perception that, oh, not everybody can become an influencer or this or that. It wasn't even considered a profession, right? Now, the beauty is that if you have the talent, if you have the dedication, if you have the skill, anybody can do that. And that's an amazing thing in a country like India, where so much can be done to highlight different corners, different facets, landscapes, culture, food. So, you know, that I think is just the beginning. And it's going to evolve and grow into an amazing industry and a platform.
And I think it's gonna be like, matlab it depends on creator to creator. Someone wants to be a celebrity, someone wants to get into a movie or maybe an OTT.
There is space for all.
Yeah, there's a space for all, and I think we should look forward to be a change maker for the country now, to represent that content that can bring and evolve your country and take it forward.
I think what we can build consensus on this panel is about that the next step is going to be bringing about change. Yeah. The influence is going to get into the change that you bring. I loved what you said, Janvi, about value will define virality. And I loved what Shantanu also said about how impact is going to be, you know, a major focus as well. So yeah, looking forward to that time. Like I said, whoever you are, how much ever you can raise your eyebrows to influencers or what they do, you cannot ignore them anymore. They are everywhere, and they've got you, you know, looking at the stuff that they want, how they want, and that is, you know, just the times we all have to accept and make. On that note, thank you all so much for joining us, and all of you over here. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Sonal, Shantanu, Janvi. Bruised passports, what inspirational stories, ladies and gentlemen, and what really caught my eye, that all these influencers, Shantanu, Janvi, Bruised passports, all of them are people who challenged the norm. They left their careers, they left everything a normal person would do in terms of a job in the private sector or government. They did what they liked best. They followed their heart, they followed their passion, and found a medium online. And ladies and gentlemen, I bet all of these people can teach our politicians more than a thing or two when it comes to storytelling and influencing people. They really know their products well. And clearly, what works in marketing, what works for a product is what works for these influencers. You have to add value. You have to be authentic. You have to be true to your viewers. Only then can you make it a full-time profession. So A big round of applause to Shantanu, Janvi, Bruised Passports for telling us such powerful stories here today at Rising Bharat. And ladies and gentlemen, very shortly we are going to be starting our next session in an era of information explosion when trillions of terabytes of content move across handhelds in milliseconds. It is the perspective that can sometimes get lost. Nuance and perspectives are the strongest pillars of any discussion. And that's what we are going to focus on over the next half an hour. Let's hear it from Ram Madhav, President, India Foundation, Francois Gautier, journalist and author, Dr. Pavan Verma, diplomat and author. You've seen these people on television several times. This session is titled The Twa Factor, and they will be in conversation with Rahul Shiv Shankar. Gentlemen, please welcome on stage with a big round of applause. Rahul, it's over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon once again. Let's get straight to the point. The only Twa factor being talked about in Bharat presently is Moditwa, which is a derivative of Modi and Hindutva. The ideological left in this country is extremely upset. They say the Prime Minister has captured the hearts and minds of Indians by peddling Hindutva, which is a divisive, Hindu supremacist political ideology. That's what they say. How did a word that is itself derived from Hindu and Twa really essentially means essence, come to be so resented by a section of the intellectual class in this country? Let's ask this of some of the finest authorities on the roots of our Hindu dharmic civilization. I have the honor of speaking to each one of them, and we have the privilege of listening to their point of view. Dr. Ram Madhav, let me begin with you first. There's a lot of misinformation about the word Hindutva to begin with. It is attributed to Mr. Savarkar, but it was coined, as it turns out, by a great son of Bengal, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, in his treatise Anand Mat. The same work that gave us Vande Mataram. Chattopadhyay himself was a product of the Renaissance, the Bengal Renaissance. First, tell us what the word Hindutva means in its unadulterated, apolitical sense as defined by people like Chattopadhyay.
No, firstly, let me make a humble correction. It's no longer a lot of misunderstanding. It's a little bit of misunderstanding continues. Large sections of our society, Indian society today, understand the real meaning and essence of this word Hindutva. There are professional critiques of it. We earlier used to think that probably people are unable to understand. That's why they are probably talking against it. But over the years, we now realize that it is professional to be anti-Hindutva. So you have to be a professionally anti-Hindutva person, so you have to invent certain arguments. Now, Hindutva is different, Hinduism is different, Hinduism is very liberal, logical, Hindutva is very fundamentalist, etc., etc. Hindutva is Hinduism in practice. In practice, always updating itself, making that very ancient philosophy of our Hindu dharma contemporarily relevant is what is Hindutva, nothing else. All other interpretations, negative interpretations about it are only professional, critical analysis. It's only a job to remain critical. No, not because they don't understand it, but being critical also has a market. That's all.
So, Pavan Verma, you've written on the Hindu civilization, a brilliant book. Are you just a professional litigant against the word Hindutva, Or do you believe that perhaps it has come to acquire, in the hands of some, a more insidious edge? And if you do believe so, can you justify why Dr. Ram Madhav might be wrong here?
I have nothing against the word Hindutva. To me, Hindutva, as you define Tva, if it is seen as the essence of Hinduism, I have probably written half a dozen books on Hinduism. I'm a great admirer of the profundity of its philosophical wisdom and an admirer also of its continuous continuity, if I may say, for 5,000 years. And I do believe that somewhere along the line, some of its great wisdoms have been lost, need to be reclaimed. Parts of Hindu civilization which are an aspect of Hindutva need to be reappropriated, brought into the mainstream. And therefore, in principle, I am not against the word Hindutva. However, since I believe in the grandeur of Hinduism, I object often, not because I'm a professional critic, as Ram Madhav ji saw. I object to Hinduism's grandeur, whether it's called Hindutva or anything else, to the lowest common denominator. By which I mean that for political purposes, if the very spirit and essence of Hinduism's ultimate glory is simplified deliberately to the point where it becomes a set of shibboleths, what to eat, what to wear, how to dress, how many times to go to the temple, who to worship, in what form, and particularly for women, for them to conform to the notion of some thekedars of Hinduism, to the concept of chaste Hindu Nari. Hinduism cannot be reduced to that, because when you do it, you distort it. Yes, you need to be aggressive about aspects of Hinduism. You need to be vigilant about possible threats to it. But in doing so, you cannot distort such a great legacy. And I therefore feel that when you use Hindutva purely as a political tool, it often ends up not as the Hinduism which we worship or which we are proud to belong to, but as a means of dividing society, spreading avoidable hate, creating fissures, and also empowering an entire class of new, he will not like this word, so I'll not use it. We've had debates before. A new class of people who cannot write one page on Hinduism but are today the protectors of Hinduism and have become a law unto themselves.
No, are you saying that they extend into the ruling establishment and that
No,
they
no,
are part and parcel
in fact,
of...
that's a very interesting question. And then Mr. Madhav, I'm sure, will answer it. You see, the ruling party, in my view, and has played a role of deliberate ambiguity with organizations like the Bajrang Dal. I'm naming one. They encourage them to achieve short-term political goals in their aggression. If they go too far, they have the option to distance themselves from it. We were just having a discussion about this. And in this process, over 10 years of political power at the center, we have people today who in the name of Hindutva are distorting the very meaning, grandeur and conquering eclecticism of Hinduism. That I feel is wrong. But otherwise, I have no problem with Hindu.
So you're saying there is a basis to adduce this sort of definition that Hindutva has been sort of twisted.
No,
Mr. Ram Madhav?
as I said, look, if there is anything wrong happening in Hinduism, there is always scope and place for questioning and criticism. That is the very fundamental, quality of Hinduism that Mr. Pawan Verma knows very well. Questioning. Gandhiji said, continuous reform is the name of Sanatana Dharma. Hindu Dharma is the name in which continuous reform should happen. To that extent, it is fine. Does Hinduism not have asuras in it? Was Ravan not a great Hindu in that sense? But he was still an asura. He was to be opposed. He was to be killed. Such things, whether they happen in any form, in any name, in any organization, they have to be opposed. But to brand a particular group as you are Hindutva, since you are Hindutva, you are bad, is what is wrong. That is what I am saying. If there is something not correct happening in any particular group, in a so-called non-Hindutva group, championing caste and dividing society in the name of caste, asking people, tell me how many judges are there from your caste, tell me how many so-and-so are there in your caste. It is all progressive in our country. Nobody questions that politics. While in Hindutva, when we are talking about this great country's ancient civilizational value system, we have to uphold it, we have to live with that swa, self-respect, self-identity. It's actually branded as though it's a very bad idea. Bad people can be there anywhere. That's what I'm saying. When there was no Hindutva also, there were bad people among every religion, every dharmic society. Don't brand a group just because then you call it a political form. It's not politics. It's about this country. If it is politics, Mahatma Gandhi was the first person to use it for political reasons. He called, I am a very proud Sanatani Hindu. It's not politics. It's about certain value system which we believe it's the core value system of our country.
Okay, you want to quickly come
Just
in before I bring in Mr. Gautier?
With apologies to François. Ram Madhav ji raised a very important point. Hinduism has the ability, the confidence, the sanction to critique itself and correct itself. My worry today is we are fast coming to a point where even a proud Hindu like myself, if he or she questions any aspect of what the establishment so-called of Hindutva believes, we are anti-Hindu. Now this is a very strange thing because Hinduism, if you know, has no one God, no one book, no one church. It is an eclectic faith which has not one but 6 systems of Hindu philosophy.
But shouldn't we speak with concrete examples?
I'm just going to finish. I'm just going to finish quickly. Yeah. And it has allowed for a great deal of contrary opinions and critique. That is its strength, Rahul. I want to just quickly take 10
but you're
seconds.
Sitting here and you're critiquing,
yes.
and there's so much space for that.
I don't know what the consequences will be. But that apart, the point I'm making is that you have the Charvaks. They said Vedas are a bunch of lies. I challenge anyone to even attempt to say that today and not face the consequences of being anti-Hindu.
Let me bring in François Gautier on this. There was another person called Veer Savarkar who challenged even the casteism that had got associated with the Hindu way. Even Gauraksha, in fact.
I would like to come back to the original topic of this conference, which is Hinduness.
Yes.
So, of course, I'm a foreigner, I'm Catholic born, Catholic educated. So I'm going to read a few lines if you allow me.
Yes.
What is it to be a true Hindu? A Hindu is one who searches for the ultimate truth. As a lover of this country, as someone who has tried to follow that Hinduness, I think the first quality of a Hindu is that he or she strives for an inner quest, using the tools that are available in this wonderful country that is called Bharat or India, pranayama, meditation, hatha yoga. So a Hindu is one who searches for truth. That's the first quality. The second quality, unlike other religions, Hinduism refuses to sanction the monopoly of one God, of one scripture, and the only way to salvation. Now, as a Catholic, when I came to India, I had the same prejudices that most Westerners have, and unfortunately still have today. All religions are the same. God is many. But what I saw in India is that when I started reporting as a young reporter, is that the ordinary Hindu in the countryside. I started in Kerala doing a feature on Kalaripayat, which is a very ancient martial art, which went to China and Japan. And I found that these people, were many of them not educated. They had this knowledge in their genes, that God is many, that, there is not one way to God. And then I also saw when I was covering Kashmir that there was another religion who thought that if you don't belong to my religion, I might kill you, I might convert you, the Christian might convert you, and the Muslim might kill you. So it opened my eyes to what true Hinduism is. Then Hinduism is the eternal faith, Sanatana Dharma, as my friend rightly said. We will not speak too much. Hindus believe that the soul takes birth in the physical body, dies, gets reborn, till it attains perfect divinity. Now, in Christianity, not many people know that, but till the 7th, 8th century, Christians accepted reincarnation. The belief in reincarnation is so important because if I am a Christian, I live, then I die according to my good will, good sins or bad sins. I go to paradise or I go to purgatory or I go to hell. Now, in this country, India, Bharat, there is no knowledge that you're born again, and this opened my eyes. I came as a very young person, and it opened my eyes. This is also is true Hinduness, to believe that you're born again, and and there is something in you which is immortal. So that again is true Hinduness. Hindu believes that one can cleanse oneself from karma through yoga practices such as pranayama. I said that in the beginning. The Hatha Yoga has taken the world by storm. In America, out of 3 persons, 2 practice Hatha Yoga. We see Hollywood stars, doing Sirsasana, doing Surya Namaskar. So this knowledge which is in this country, and I think this is why Mr. Modi came and he played such a crucial role in the rising of Bharat, is that India needs to become the spiritual leader of the world. Many of your sages have said that, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo. I actually came to India to meet Sri Aurobindo's companion called the Mother in Pondicherry, and I had the privilege to meet her several times. Sri Aurobindo was an immense yogi, immense avatar, and also a revolutionary. That India needs to become spiritual leader of the world, and I think Mr. Modi is playing a very, very important role in that. Now, one can be a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew, and still practice Hinduism. I think this is one thing that very few Hindus understand, is that Hinduism is not a religion, it's a spirituality. And it's a universal spirituality because it recognizes that God, he or she, not only he or she can manifest at different times, using different names, different scriptures. So this is a wonderful knowledge, and that knowledge used to be, roaming all over the world, in Egypt, in Greece, Mesopotamia, right. So many countries had this knowledge, but it was wiped out. So today, the responsibility that your country holds is that it still has this knowledge, which is being attacked from many sides, including, as the earlier Mr. Babane said, by Hindus themselves. So for me to come to this country, to live in this country, is a great privilege because I learned things that I couldn't learn in my country, though, definitely France has many qualities, and there are things that India can learn.
So what you're saying, Francois Gauthier, is that, and I think in one sense you're saying what Savarkar once said, that Hindus need to fear actually Hindus the most. That's what he had said. So, yes.
Well, can I say one phrase about that?
Yes.
That I agree with Mr. Professor Bamades, but also there's Western Indologists. There is a hatred of Hindus among Western Indologists. In my country, there's a man called Christophe Jaffrelot. He's made his lifelong task of demonizing Hindus, the BJP, the RSS, okay. Mr. Modi.
They are the professionals, I said.
That's the professional. Okay, so let me just ask you this, Pawan Verma, because I think we're pivoting towards an interesting territory. Now, you claim that a particular type of political Hindutva philosophy is dividing people and this, that, the other, and it takes sometimes legal expression like the CAA, etc., etc. Now, this is interesting because it's in stark contrast to the political experience of the BJP that is constantly adding new and new and new sociological verticals. It's the only party that's actually growing. How can their worldview be so exclusive, yet it is attracting more and more people? So obviously, what is said about it, and I'm not sounding like any apologist, I'm just saying, just look at the numbers. How can you say that they are championing something so exclusivist?
Rahul, I don't think we should compare apples and oranges. Today's subject is the Twa factor in Hindutva. Why a political party is on the upswing and has won 2 decisive majorities in parliament is a very complex subject. First of all, it's the personality of Mr. Modi. Second, it is a narrative. Third, it is many of its achievements like welfareism. Fourth, it's an organization and cadre which permeates down to the grassroots. And fifth, there is also the Hindutva factor and hyper-nationalism, or what I often call proving yourself to be patriotic, otherwise you are not. Maybe there are factors like this. We are talking of Hinduism, and here I agree with what Francois says, that for anyone from an Abrahamic faith.
No, I'm specifically addressing the point that you raised, because I was hearing Mr. Chidambaram speak a few days ago, where a question was put to him, why is it that the BJP is growing? Why is it that Modi is becoming more and more popular? And he said, well, there are a variety of reasons, just like you were. But the main reason is that this man has fed the poison of Hindutva. He didn't discriminate between what Hindutva was in his mind. He said it was the poison of Hindutva, which even the Supreme Court identifies with Hinduism, let me tell you. The J.S. Verma judgment, if you go back to it. So he says it is Hindutva. Now, if Hindutva was so divisive, so poisonous, why are the unsuspecting voters drinking it?
No, so to answer your question, I have been the spokesman of the Ministry of External Affairs of a political party, the JDU.
Yes.
But I'm not Mr. Chidambaram's spokesman. So I just want to clarify that. He can say what he believes. To my mind, Mr. Modi is a popular leader, and it has also a factor of the opposition being spectacularly ineffective without a face or a narrative.
Okay.
So that these are factors that are different. They are in the secular realm as well. Where Hindutva is concerned, for anyone from an Abrahamic faith, the freedoms and the openness of Hinduism is a matter, can be a matter of great attraction and also be a matter of great miscomprehension. Now, when there is a religion, which Francois talked about, where the greatest reviver of Hinduism, Adi Shankaracharya, he says, na dharmo, na chartho, na kamo, na moksha, na mantro, na tirtham, na vedo, na yagna. None of these matter. All that matters is Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. And by the way, he said, I am Shiva, I am Shiva. Another thinker in the Middle East, a Sufi thinker, he said, Anul Haq, I am the truth. He was beheaded. In Hinduism, it's not. So we need to preserve this grandeur of
No, where is any dispute about it? Who is not preserving it in India? Is Hindutva not preserving it? You talked about Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara's one of the finest memorials is coming up in Madhya Pradesh, funded by the BJP government. Isn't it a great tribute to Adi Shankara and all that philosophy of Advaita of Adi Shankara? And this is that Hindutva which has freed millions and millions of Indian women from the smoke puffing chulas, provided them gas cylinders without asking them about their religion, sir. Did we ask them whether you are a Hindu or not? Did we not give it to all religions? Is it not the same Hindutva which is freeing millions and millions of Muslim women from triple talaq? The curse of triple talaq? Is it not a great service that this so-called Hindutva leadership doing to the Muslim women of this country? Fortunately in our country, that's why I said, all those sections of people understand that what is projected as a big demon, and then suddenly today I mean, we pretend to be victims. This victimhood argument, what will happen to me? Sir, you have been espousing your cause for many years. Nothing happened to you. People are listening to you. You are respected. Why this victimhood syndrome? Did it ever occur to you that years after years, decades after decades, you kept calling us communal, you kept calling us fascist? Did we then cry from rooftops that what will happen to me if I say I am a nationalist? These are, tables are turning. People will call you things that you have been doing in all these years before. Today, somebody else will stand up and say, no, you are anti-Hindu if you say this. Take it in your stride. Full freedom in this country for criticism. That's why it's that spirit we never reject. In Hinduism, in Hindutva, not Hinduism. There is always space, scope for Mr. Pavan Verma, Mr. Christopher Jeffrellet also. One may be a very professional critic. One is a logical critic. Everybody has a place. But I am repeating, as far as this so-called Hindutva politics is concerned, it is totally non-discriminatory in the true spirit of Hinduism or Hindutva. It is for the welfare and well-being of everybody, 1.4 billion Indians. That is what you witness in this country. That is the reason why people today support Prime Minister and his government.
Very quickly, very quickly.
No, people.
The only person we have heard just the other day, and nothing, fortunately, and that just speaks for the Hindu way, has happened to him as yet. Person who gets up and says, in Hinduism, there is this thing called Shakti, and we are fighting this Shakti. Now imagine someone saying that about any other faith and about a negative aspect of that faith, what would have happened to that individual by now? 48 hours and counting.
I think a lot has happened to him by now.
No, that's because of his political...
No, nothing will happen because I tell you, nothing will happen. The reason I tell you.
At least in terms of ridicule, because without understanding what in Hinduism is the role of Shakti, to use Shakti in the context of Hinduism, in the manner in which he did, obviously.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So is that a professional critic?
These are not the substantive critiques that we need as Hindus to be open about. And what I am saying is, let's talk of Veer Savarkar.
No, we've run out of time, actually. I'm really sorry.
But I must say, nothing will happen to Rahul Gandhi, sir. Don't worry. Because we always believed that BJP has strong leadership which will get us a lot of votes. Modi ji, Amit Shah and Rahul Gandhi.
Well, I did tell you, yes. 30 seconds.
I mean, I don't believe there is a divide between being Hindu and Hindutva. In fact, I believe that Hindu power is a must in India, and that sometimes I feel Mr. Modi is very moderate. Of course, as Ram said, he's the Prime Minister of all Indians. But understanding that Hindu accept the totality of the world, I wish that Hindu power would come more to the fore.
Well,
10 seconds. I can understand his point of view, but Hinduism's foundational basis is respect for all faiths. And I think that cannot be diluted.
I think most people here will say is perhaps happening given the fact that a large number of people are not differentiated on the basis of their faith by government policies. I think that's the real test. The government comes in and it respects everyone, exactly, respects and enables everyone when they form policies. I can tell you a previous government, non-BJP governments who had policies that actually differentiated between people. I still haven't found one who can accuse this government, and I'm just being absolutely factual here. Any one of you thinks that there's one government policy that differentiates between people, one government policy, Indian citizens? Raise your hands. Well, we leave it at that. The proof of the pudding is in its eating. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rahul. That indeed was a thought-provoking discussion. And, one thing is very clear, ladies and gentlemen. When you speak about Hinduism, this is exactly what we saw on stage. You have place to debate, to critique, and make better. Yes, Hinduism can absorb different views and become better over time. And fortunately or unfortunately, we're going to see a very sharp debate over Hinduism in the coming general election. Yes, this is going to be a hot, long and sweaty election, and there will be some high-pitched politics over Hinduism. And this is exactly what the Prime Minister has been trying to avoid. Take away politics, take away the debate from religion and caste and focus it on the economy. Yes, he has been saying that we need to focus on the poor, the women, the youth and the farmers. And these are the forecasts in the country we need to focus on. And as we talk about the economy, ladies and gentlemen, let's indulge in some investment talk, shall we? Private equity, venture funding and the investment universe are having their moments, albeit with a bit of rough and tumble lately. This involves moving funds across asset classes and various geographies. What are the changes taking place in the investment landscape and the evolving technologies in the world of finance, private capital and money? Let's welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Ashish Agarwal, Managing Director and Country Head at Jefferies, Ramesh Damani, veteran investor and member of Bombay Stock Exchange, Shweta Jalan, Managing Partner and Head of Advent International in India, Harsha Raghavan, Managing Partner, Convergent Finance LLP, to talk about turbocharged markets, micro moves, macro moves, in conversation with CNBC TV 18's Managing Editor, Shireen Bhan. Let's welcome them on stage, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a fascinating discussion. There will be a debate on the economy as we get off the national election, and who better to discuss this? Shireen, over to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What an absolute pleasure it is to be back here at Rising Bharat. Thank you so much for being an incredible audience here, and we look forward to engaging with you on an issue that is occupying a lot of mind space and clearly generating a lot of headlines. I have a fabulous panel here with me this afternoon to talk about the trajectory that we are likely to see. It has been a record-breaking year for the Indian capital markets. To start with, we've seen the democratization of the Indian capital markets. The number of demat accounts in just the past 1 year up 34%. We've seen India emerge as one of the best performing markets in the world. We've seen record numbers in terms of mutual funds, asset under management. Women are now participating in the Indian capital markets like never before. But to tell us what the road ahead looks like, what we can expect for India, for the Indian economy and for the Indian markets, without further ado, I'm going to start the first round with 90 seconds each to my panelists here to give us their take on what they believe is the bull case for India. Ramesh Damani, veteran investor, you've of course been bullish on the Indian markets for very, very long. And Ramesh, I just want to, for the benefit of our audience here who are watching us online as well as here at the Taj Palace in Delhi, remind you of that event in 2014 where your good friend, the late Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, said, if you're underinvested in India, you're going to miss out on the mother of all bull markets. Ramesh Damani, 90 seconds, your time starts now on the bull case for India.
Yeah, thank you, Shireen. It's very interesting that I just came back from the land of the rising sun. So I'm coming back to the rising Bharat right now. And the very instructive story to understand about what's happened in Japan. In 1964, when India last won the Olympic gold medal cleanly, with the fair competition, was in Tokyo, the Nikkei was at 1,000. Over the next 25 years, it climbed from 1,000 to 40,000 in yen terms. Even dollar terms, it actually went to 100,000. So it had the mother of all bull runs in Japan. And I think Rakesh and me, we're kind of stock market creatures. We believe that India is on a similar bull run. Like Japan went from a third world country to the second largest economy in the world. Companies that were unknown in Japan in 64, Sony, Hitachi, Honda, became household names. I think, and maybe I hope I'm right, that India is on a similar trajectory. And what is powering this bull market in India? Every bull market has a thesis. What powers the bull market? I think what is powering this bull market is the growth of the great Indian middle class. I think finally we're having a great Indian middle class. People have a bit of extra money to save, extra money to invest. So you're seeing that coming through in the demat accounts, seeing through in the domestic money inflows. So I think this is a long-term story. I don't think, as my friend Rakesh would say, always be bullish on this country. And the volatility that we're seeing right now is more like a winter squall. It'll pass by, but people who stand still will end up making a lot of money.
Well, speaking of making a lot of money, and since we are talking about Rakesh and his predictions as well, Ramesh, you were in that room when he said that the Nifty at 1 lakh by 2030. In fact, on an occasion he had said 1 lakh 25, but then he scaled it back. So 1 lakh by 2030?
That seems a bit of a stretch, but the Sensex will get there.
The Sensex will get there. Ashish, let me come to you now. The bull case for India, 90 seconds.
We've just come out with a big report, India's march onto the global stage. We are talking about, I think, the economy itself touching about $5 trillion by 2027, the market cap reaching about $10 trillion by 2030. I don't think any other country can talk about so many things coming together, whether it's an under-leveraged economy, capex cycle, both government and private sector, whether it's the demographic dividend that we are talking about, the rising middle class that Ramesh just talked about. I think it's a lot more parallel to also what the US went through in the 80s, you know, in terms of working population, savings habit. As you have more macro stability, lower inflation, the average saver